Peekaboo. Hi, this is Miss Jordan. I just wanted to say hi and get on here and read a book with you guys. These are my babies. This is Tank in front of the camera and Sadie being hidden over here. And I like to read in bed with my dogs, so that's where I'm at. And I wanted to share some books I had that I'm excited about. I'd love for you guys to help me pick out which books that we should read. But one of the books I have is The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe, a fantasy book. I find it really exciting. I read this when I was a kid, and it's been a long time since I've read it, so I think I'm going to be reading this one with you guys first. These were some other books that I bought recently. Game Day, it's a series of books. So I have the Game Day 1, 2, and 3 about a boy playing basketball. Good series that I want to try out. These were a couple books that I bought at our book fair recently. I Survived the Joplin Tornado, some kind of documentary natural disaster books. And then this one is 18 Days Underground and Other Incredible Rescue Stories. And I thought this would be a cool book to check out at some point in time. Over spring break, I did read a book called Ember, Rescue Dogs Ember, and it was so good. Since I just read it, I'm not going to read it again right now, but I think it's a book that you either have to read or you're going to read with me at some point. So, Tank's face. Tank, say hi. Tank, say hello to the camera. Hi, Peppers. Hi. Oh my goodness. Anyways, these are my partners. These are my babies. Now you get to see them. So, the book that I wanted to read with you guys, hopefully you can hear me good, is The Chronicles of Narnia, The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe. And I figured I'd read chapter 1 today. And then maybe we'll make it a goal that each day we'll read one chapter. All right? So, let's see what happens. They open a door and enter a world. Narnia. I'm reading the back of the book because that always gives us the summary of what we'll be reading about. It says Narnia, the land beyond the wardrobe, the secret country known only to Peter, Susan, Edmund, and Lucy, the place where the adventure begins. Lucy is the first to find the secret of the wardrobe in the professor's mysterious old house. At first, no one believes her when she tells of her adventures in the land of Narnia. But soon, Edmund and then Peter and Susan discover the magic and meet Aslan, the great lion, for themselves. In the blink of an eye, their lives are changed forever. And this is a series of books, so I'm excited. Yay. I haven't read this book in forever. I remember loving it as a kid. So chapter 1 is Lucy looks into a wardrobe. Okay, so this is what we'll be starting to read. We'll try and get through chapter 1 today, okay? Hopefully you like this book as much as I do. So, Lucy looks into a wardrobe. Once there were 4 children whose names were Peter, Susan, Edmund, and Lucy. This story is about something that happened to them when they were sent away from London during the war because of the air raids. They were sent to the house of an old professor who lived in the heart of the country, 10 miles from the nearest railway station and 2 miles from the nearest post office. He had no wife, and he lived in a large house with a housekeeper called Mrs. Macready and 3 servants. Their names were Ivy, Margaret, and Betty. But they do not come into the story much. He himself was a very old man with shaggy white hair, which grew over most of his face as well as on his head, and they liked him almost at once. But on the first evening, when he came out to meet them at the front door, he was so odd-looking that Lucy, who was the youngest, was a little afraid of him, and Edmund, who was the next youngest, wanted to laugh and had to keep on pretending he was blowing his nose to hide it. As soon as they had said goodnight to the professor and gone upstairs on the first night, the boys came into the girls' room and they all talked it over. "We've fallen on our feet, and no mistake," said Peter. "This is going to be perfectly splendid. That old chap will let us do anything we like." "I think he's an old dear," said Susan. "Oh, come off it," said Edmund, who was tired and pretending not to be tired, which always made him bad-tempered. "Don't go on talking like that." "Like what?" said Susan. "And anyway, it's time you were in bed." "Trying to talk like mother," said Edmund. "Are you? And who are you to say when I go to bed? Go to bed yourself." "Ooh, siblings, huh?" "Hadn't we all better go to bed?" said Lucy. "There's sure to be a row if we're heard talking here." "Ooh, no there won't," said Peter. "I tell you this is the sort of house where no one's going to mind what we do. Anyway, they won't hear us. It's about 10 minutes walk from here down to that dining room, and any amount of stairs and passages in between." "What's that noise?" said Lucy suddenly. It was a far larger house than she had ever been in before, and the thought of all those long passages and rows of doors leading into empty rooms was beginning to make her feel a little creepy. I agree, a big house like that might be too much space, too much empty, creepy space. "It's only a bird, silly," said Edmund. "It's an owl," said Peter. "This is going to be a wonderful place for birds. I shall go to bed now. I say, let's go and explore tomorrow. You might find anything in a place like this. Did you see those mountains as we came along? And the woods? There might be eagles. There might be stags. There'll be hawks." "Badgers," said Lucy. "Foxes," said Edmund. "Rabbits," said Susan. But when next morning came, there was a steady rain falling, so thick that when you looked out the window, you could see neither the mountains nor the woods, nor even the stream in the garden. "Of course it would be raining," said Edmund. They had just finished their breakfast with the professor and were upstairs in the room he had set apart for them. A long, low room with 2 windows looking out in one direction and 2 in another. "Do stop grumbling, Ed," said Susan. 10 to 1 it'll clear up in an hour or so. And in the meantime, we're pretty well off. There's a wireless and lots of books." "Good thing there's books." "Not for me," said Peter. "I'm going to explore in the house." Everyone agreed to this, and that was how the adventures began. It was the sort of house that you never seemed to come to the end of, and it was full of unexpected places. The first few doors they tried led only into spare bedrooms, as everyone had expected that they would. But soon they came to a very long room full of pictures, and there they found a suit of armor, and after that there was a room all hung with green, with a harp in one corner, and then came 3 steps down and 5 steps up, and then a kind of little upstairs hall and a door that led out onto a balcony, and then a whole series of rooms that led into each other and were lined with books, most of them very old books, and some bigger than a Bible in a church. And shortly after that, they looked into a room that was quite empty, except for one big wardrobe, the sort that has a looking glass in the door. A wardrobe is kind of like a cabinet, a standing cabinet closet. That's what we call a wardrobe. There was nothing else in the room at all except a dead blue bottle on the windowsill. "Nothing there," said Peter, and they all trooped out again, all except Lucy. She stayed behind because she thought it would be worthwhile trying the door of the wardrobe, even though she felt almost sure that it would be locked. To her surprise, it opened quite easily, and 2 mothballs dropped out. Looking into the inside, she saw several coats hanging up, mostly long fur coats. There was nothing Lucy liked so much as the smell and feel of fur. She immediately stepped into the wardrobe and got in among the coats and rubbed her face against them, leaving the door open, of course, because she knew that it was very foolish to shut oneself into any wardrobe. Soon she went further in and found that there was a second row of coats hanging up behind the first one. It was almost quite dark in there, and she kept her arms stretched out in the front of her so as not to bump her face into the back of the wardrobe. She took a step further in, then 2 or 3 steps, almost expecting to feel woodwork against the tips of her fingers. But she could not feel it. I don't know if there's an end to this wardrobe like she's expecting there to be. There is a picture. I'm going to show you. Oh, you see that? There's that wardrobe in the corner. Oh, checking it out. This must be a simply enormous wardrobe, thought Lucy, going still further in and pushing the soft folds of the coats aside to make room for her. Then she noticed that there was something crunching under her feet. I wonder, is that more mothballs, she thought, stooping down to feel it with her hand. But instead of feeling the hard, smooth wood of the floor of the wardrobe, get out of the picture, Tank. Sit. 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 You're interrupting her story. You gotta sit down. Rude. So, instead of feeling the smooth wood of the floor of the wardrobe, she felt something soft and powdery and extremely cold. This is very weird, she said, and went on a step or 2 further. Next moment, she found that what was rubbing against her face and hands was no longer soft fur, but something hard and rough and even prickly. Why, it is just like branches of trees, exclaimed Lucy. And then she saw that there was a light ahead of her. Not a few inches away where the back of the wardrobe ought to have been, but a long way off. Something cold and something soft was falling on her. A moment later, she found that she was standing in the middle of a wood at nighttime with snow under her feet and snowflakes falling through the air. Lucy felt a little frightened, but she felt very inquisitive and excited as well. She looked back over her shoulder, and there, between the dark tree trunks, she could still see the open doorway of the wardrobe and even catch a glimpse of the empty room from which she had set out. Could you imagine? Whew! Pretty cool, pretty scary, I don't know. She had, of course, left the door open, for she knew that it was a very silly thing to shut oneself into a wardrobe. It seemed to be still daylight there. I can always get back if anything goes wrong, thought Lucy. She began to walk forward, crunch, crunch over the snow and through the wood toward the other light. In about 10 minutes she reached it and found it was a lamppost. As she stood looking at it, wondering why there was a lamppost in the middle of a wood, and wondering what to do next, she heard a pitter-patter of feet coming toward her. I wonder who it is. And soon after that, a very strange person stepped out from among the trees into the light of the lamppost. He was only a little taller than Lucy herself, and he carried over his head an umbrella, white with snow. From the waist upward, he was like a man, but his legs were shaped like a goat's. The hair on them was glossy black, and instead of feet, he had goat's hooves. He also had a tail, but Lucy did not notice this at first because it was neatly caught up over the arm that held the umbrella so as to keep it from trailing in the snow. He had a red woolen muffler round his neck and his skin was rather reddish too. He had a strange but pleasant little face, with a short pointed beard and curly hair, and out of the hair there stuck 2 horns, one on each side of his forehead. One of his hands, as I have said, held the umbrella. In the other arm he carried several brown parcels. What with the parcels and the snow, it looked just as if he had been doing his Christmas shopping. He was a fawn, and when he saw Lucy, he gave such a start of surprise that he dropped all his parcels. "Goodness gracious me!" exclaimed the fawn. Whew, and that is the end of chapter 1. A fawn, goat horns, my goodness. Do you know what parcels are, my friends? Parcels are like packages, things that get delivered. You're sending to somebody. So, chapter 2 is what Lucy found there. So, Lucy gets to meet this fawn, and he's startled and surprised by her. So, I wonder what their relationship will be next. I think he seems to be friendly. He doesn't strike me as somebody who's going to be dangerous. But anyways, that will have to be tomorrow, chapter 2. You got to tune in. We'll be reading chapter 2. Hopefully you liked getting to meet my babies, even though they're kind of like hidden. I enjoyed reading the book with you guys. I miss you guys so much. And hopefully you'll be ready for chapter 2 tomorrow. You can go in order. You can watch them each day. Or you can wait a couple days and watch a couple of chapters in a row. But that's going to be a long time. So anyways, this is what we are reading. The Chronicles of Narnia. The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe. I'm not for sure which characters that is in the screen. If that's Lucy, Edmund, what is it? Edmund, Susan, Lucy, and Peter. All right. So anyways, guys, I hope you enjoyed chapter 1 and miss you. Can't tell you enough. All right. I'll see you soon. Bye.